down here.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, it is. Up there you couldn't see each other.
Where am I now? Oh, I'm still here.
Still there.
Okay.
I come in, I'm looking for my name, and I think, oh my God, I got fired already.
This is
So
kind
you haven't been down here,
No, I had no clue. I'm looking for my name. I thought, geez, I don't even know where I sit anymore.
huh?
This is my first.
You know what Brooks would say?
Yeah, he'd say, "Where's my gavel?"
It's like old home sweet home.
How are you?
Wonderful.
I'm fine, thank you, sir.
Did you get a new truck? Did I get a what? Looks just like
name.
Alan's
Like,
jacket.
Fire me already. I had no idea.
Be the old one.
Well, the reason I had to get a new truck is because the old ones,
Ben
the
Havel's here.
transmission started telling me to get a new truck.
Well,
It is what it is.
it's kind of rough.
Yeah, so I ended up getting a new truck, and
Better that
I wouldn't call it new. 2008's not really new, but that's new in the Buxton household.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know how that goes.
This is the first time for you.
It is, I didn't know.
1500.
What am I doing wrong?
Okay. Welcome to the July 20th, 2021 Kent County Levy Court committee meetings. Before we go to the first committee, we'll have the county administrator tell us how we're going to use the phone and the phone access, WebEx.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, this meeting this evening is being offered to the public via WebEx, and we may have visitors. I know we have at least one visitor who will be addressing the first item on the first committee. Emily Ninen is on the line. And so because we have people joining us virtually, we just want everyone to be able to state their name and for the record so that we know who's speaking. The folks on the WebEx will know who's speaking. And similarly, folks on the WebEx, at the appropriate time when they're ready to speak, they will either press, if they're on a computer device, they will raise their electronic hand. If they're on a mobile phone, *3 will alert our operator to invite you into the meeting and unmute you. So with those instructions and the fact that as a meeting of the Levy Court, it's a committee meeting, we're following the rules of order that have been adopted by Levy Court for committees and also the Mason's Rules of Order. Mr. President, back to you.
Thank you. Let the record show we have 7 commissioners present, all 7 commissioners, and the county administrator. The first item on the agenda is the Finance Committee. Mrs. Maston, who's the chair, I'll turn it over to you.
The first item is ordinance LC 21-14, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of Kent County refunding revenue bonds in the amount not to exceed $1,500,000 for the benefit of American Legion Ambulance Station 64, incorporated to refinance its ambulance station located at 900 Smyrna Clayton Boulevard in Smyrna, Delaware.
And Chairman Maston, we have on the WebEx line Emily Ninen, our bond counsel, and I would call upon Emily at this time to have some opening remarks, basically explain to the commissioners the item that's before them, and then I believe we also have a representative from the American Legion Ambulance 64 in the room who will also address Levy Court. If they want to come down to the table and join us at this time, they're welcome to do so. Emily, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. Can you all hear me? I don't know if
Yes.
you can see, but, okay. And I think Jen Havel's joining you there at the table. So good evening. I'm Emily Ninen. I serve as bond counsel to Kent County. The ordinance that you'll be introducing next week for American Legion Ambulance is 501c3 nonprofit tax-exempt bonds that the county is being asked to issue. This is the same structure that you just approved and issued for the charter school that I was there to discuss about a month ago. So Campus Community School, we did close that bond. So the reason the ambulance station is now coming to the county is they became a nonprofit organization in the last few years since they entered into their initial loan. And because they're a 501c3 organization, they can now qualify for tax-exempt, lower-cost debt. So the county has no responsibility for the repayment of this debt. There's no credit of the county being used by Whitfield Bank, who is the lender in this case. You have no obligation, like I said, to repay it, and there's no limit on the amount of 501c3 bonds that the county can issue. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer it.
Does anyone have any questions?
Good idea.
Jen want to introduce herself and maybe?
Mrs. Havel, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name's Jeanette Havel. I'm the Support Services Director for the American Legion Ambulance Station 64 in Smyrna.
Welcome to Levy Court.
Yeah, thank you. Usually I'm here as Girl State.
I'm sorry?
I said usually I'm here as Girl State.
Uh-huh.
Just
Commissioner
because
Buxton?
The silence is deafening to me. The reality is, right, we've been down this road before. It's safe for the county to agree to do it, and it's exceptionally useful to one of our partners in the community. So why not? In fact, we're glad to do it.
Councilman, or Commissioner Sweeney?
Thanks. Ms. Howell, what are your plans?
What are our plans?
Yeah.
As overall, well, this will be a refinance of our current building loan. By doing it by tax exempt, we're saving approximately $70,000
Nice.
in interest payments. And as I don't know how many of you saw the letter that I saw previously, I sent you guys just in regards to EMS funding in general. We are one of 3 standalone EMS companies in the state of Delaware, meaning we're not attached to a firehouse in any way. So our structure and our funding is very different from a firehouse. So we have to be a little more creative in how we gather our funding and how we spend it. So we like to spend it wisely. So if I can save $70,000 in interest that stays in my pocket to help the community versus WISFIS, I'm more than happy to do that with your help.
Good show.
Absolutely. Good to know, thanks.
Any other commissioners have any comments? Do I have agreement to move this forward to the business meeting? 7-0.
That was too easy.
Back to you, Mr.
Like it that
President.
way. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, is there any
Thank
public
you.
comments concerning this? Back to you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, Public Works Committee, Mr. Howell, Chair. Turn over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. Ms. Gold is here to,
Go, buddy. Let it go.
I missed the button.
Let it go.
Let it go. You already on.
Oh, man. Modern technology. Well, anyway, we have 3 items. 2 of them require a vote. We'll start off in order. We're ready when you are.
So the first item on the committee agenda is air system blower optimization project. We're at the point in the project where we're looking at the equipment installation bid award. So previously, we did the equipment procurement, which was awarded to APG Neuros. Hayes and Sawyer prepared the construction bid documents. We advertised the bid and held a pre-bid meeting. The package was sent out to 9 contractors. Only 1 bid was received.
Wow.
Was it the highest bid?
All of them. The bid was $2,735,541. So it's for the installation of 2 turbo airfoil bearing blowers and the associated electrical upgrade. We've worked with Johnston Construction Company at the plant. They worked on the UV disinfection project. The bid that they submitted was less than the engineer's estimate and within the project funding. As we have adequate funds from USDA loans, the Department of Public Works is recommending the award to Johnson Construction Company. And we will need USDA concurrence to move forward.
Okay.
But that's where we are.
All righty. We worked with Johnson before.
That's correct.
He was good. Yeah, all right. Any questions about this item? All right, I move that we put it on the consent agenda. Everybody, 7 up? Good. 1 down. Let's go.
So in 2003, about 18 years ago, we came to Levy Court, the department did, and a resolution was passed for the extension of the Kent County Sewage Disposal District to serve the properties in Parisville and London Village in the project area. So it's been a long road. So in this year, we were ready to bid the project. We bid it and we were moving forward with an award to Teal Construction. And USDA began a review of the funding and the underwriting that had been done previously. And they believed that the MHI that was used at the time, which was for the town of Magnolia, was not appropriate. So that they asked that we do an income survey. Actually, let me back that up a little bit. They said that we should have used Woodside East Census Designated Place, the MHI for that. The MHI for that was actually greater than the county, and USDA and Kent County had a discussion, and we felt that it was in the best interest of those folks in that area to do an income survey. The income survey results have been completed. The median household income, also, you'll hear me say MHI, is $24,000. So they were looking at the area has an MHI of $61,000. So it's a significant difference. So that work for the income survey was completed by Southeast Rural Assistance Project. It was completed with mail surveys, a 2-day 10 event out in the field, and going door to door. We collected 139 surveys. So you use the MHI to help set the rate for the area, and it helps determine how much loan is affordable for those folks to pay back.
Right.
Ms. Gold? And it's a plus, right? Because I think it more accurately reflects individual specific to that district.
Yes.
What was the qualification for participating in the survey? Did you have to be a landowner?
No, it was sent to the residents.
It's fine. Thanks.
And we knocked on the houses, so the household, the residents again were contacted in all 3 means.
Sure. That's
Go ahead.
significant portion of individuals, it's okay, are actual renters, not
Correct.
landowners. That's fine. Thank you.
And that's appropriate. We want the folks who live there, we want their income. We don't need the landlord who lives in another area. We don't need their income.
So as a group, we jumped through hoops to make sure that we had the information right. We sent them information. When they didn't reply, we went to the door, knocked on the door.
Correct.
Okay.
The requirement was, from USDA, was 57% of the residents, households, had to have their surveys turned in.
What'd we get?
We got that, but it was a struggle.
We got to 57%, but you don't remember exactly.
It's 139 out of 244.
Okay. All right.
But when we originally did the mail survey, we only got 30 responses mailed back to us.
Was this out of both communities?
Yes,
Okay.
it's 244 for the entire project area.
In Parisville.
And then there's some properties on Peachtree Run as well that actually aren't in either subdivision that are part of the project.
So I've followed this one very closely as it's in my district. I appreciate everything you guys have done over the past 15 years to not only seek the best way to install sewer for those 2 communities, but also to put a hold on things when we knew we weren't getting the best rates from USDA or, the best way to keep their expenses down, because they're not, obviously, as showed from the MHI, they're not the most well-to-do households in the county. So I appreciate everything that, you and your predecessor have done to make sure that this gets done this way.
Thank you. So with that, we're looking at determining how much loan can these folks afford. And there's a range here, and we haven't finalized things yet with USDA. So $19 to $27 per EDU is available to pay on debt for the loan. So that means that I'm showing a loan of $146,000, but I think I also came up with a number more like $190,000. So this number is in flux. So one of the things I've asked Commissioner Howe to do is look at modifying the motion to make it be up to, in case we don't need all the money that we're asking for. But with this being an investment in sewer, and that it is absolutely necessary to proceed, we're asking for the use of ARPA funds. So we're looking at up to $1,270,000 in ARPA funds being used toward this project, which has a total project cost, which is estimated to be $5,664,000 and roughly.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Mr. Pettit-Demange, the 1.27 million from ARPA funds, since we haven't really completed all of the discussions about ARPA, is that something that we want to decide tonight, or just include that in the overall package that we're considering?
If timing is not a critical matter, and I don't know if it is on this at this point, the interim final rule is not quite a final rule yet from the U.S. Treasury, but I think this issue, as long as the sewer project could qualify for state revolving loan funds otherwise, it could qualify for use of the ARPA funds. That's very clear in the both in the interim final rule and also in the law itself. But so I don't think there's going to be any change on that aspect of the rule. And then the other thing that this does demonstrate is providing funding in a what the ARPA legislation calls a qualified census tract, which is a low and moderate income area. So I think it essentially hits two objectives of ARPA with respect to the investment in infrastructure.
Thank you.
So you'd asked about schedule. So in February, Levy Court did a bid award to Teal Construction contingent upon USDA concurrence. Then we ran into our funding issue. Ideally, if everything had been smoothly, we'd already be under construction. So if the funding is not approved at the next Levy Court meeting, we're in this egg and chicken type situation where USDA isn't going to say, yes, you've got your money and you can go ahead. So until we get something decided from Levy Court, I can't get USDA to help make their decisions. So it's important from that aspect so that we can start moving forward with the actual construction, because at this point in my mind, we're already behind.
The other, yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate the comments. Commissioner Sweeney, I reviewing the packet and talking to Ms. Gold earlier, I was concerned that we were, well, in the perfect scheme of things, a little ahead, but timing is everything. I don't, based on what I understand, it would fit the funding or the requirements for funding. So for that reason, I'm in support of this at this time. I would like, and I don't see it being a big deal, are there any, if there's any other projects that we don't deliberately move forward with those unless there's a timing issue, that we do take the time to
I agree.
organize it. Yep. You know, I don't think that's going to be an issue anyway, but if it popped up. So.
Well, is Whispering Pines one of those?
Well, that's the next item, and we'll cover that with that item.
Okay, thanks.
It
So,
would be if it was ARPA.
Yeah.
All righty. Any other comments? Now, I was going to put this on the consent agenda. I guess that's appropriate. And if we do that, we won't be reading this motion as though we're a separate business item, but there is one change in the motion. I want, just for the record, in the first sentence where it says, funds in the amount of $1,270,000. We want to take that preposition of out and put up to. Okay, good enough. All for the consent agenda?
We also want to change the 146,000 to up to 190?
That's not in the motion.
That's not in the motion. I didn't see the motion. Okay,
So
thanks.
did we get 7?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Very good. Got that done. Consent agenda. And one other item, now this last item does not require a vote per se. Ms. Golt's just looking for a green light to pursue, and I'll let her explain the details.
So the department has received a request from the owners of Whispering Pines Mobile Home Park. And Dave Gilganest is here tonight, and hopefully I pronounced your last name correctly, is also available should you have any questions for him. So we received a request for us to complete a sewer project in Whispering Pines Mobile Home Park. In 2011, the front of the park was connected. There were 27 units there. 6 additional units have been connected, and the main work was completed in 2011, and I'm not sure over time those additional units came on. So we're looking at 38 units haven't been connected to county sewer. There is on-site septic that serves those properties now, those birthing spaces in the mobile home park. The initial work was done with DENREC loans taken by the park owner. 50% of that was given as loan forgiveness at the end of the construction. So again, we're looking to finish this for the 38 units that remain. The cost estimate is about $500,000. Now that cost estimate isn't complete. It's only looking at construction. It's not necessarily looking at the prevailing wage rates that might need to construct it, engineering costs that might be additional to change the documents to meet funding agency requirements, sewer permits, septic abandonment. So there's some room left to change that cost estimate, but that's the number we have today. So with this, what we're looking for is, this is a private park, it's solely to serve a private park. What we're looking at doing for this project is it's a public-private partnership, which don't ask me to say that multiple times, I will mess it up. Where the park has already spent money on having an engineering design done, and I've preliminary spoken with them about completing some more engineering that needs to be done. So that's costs that the owner is bringing to the project. Typically in a project like this, the county, at one point, the department is going to come ask the commissioners whether they will waive the district impact fees as done on other county projects where there are septic eliminations. We also ask that the county-wide impact fee be set at a non-increasing rate. So there's a sharing there of costs. And what we're looking at doing as well is getting loans or grants from DENREC or USDA, state and federal funding. The front of the park has a rate of $116 per quarter, $116.85. So we really can't have the back half of the park have a different rate than the front half of the park. So I really am looking for a 100% grant or a loan with 100% loan forgiveness when we go talk to DENREC. DENREC, when I spoke with Greg Pope on the phone, seemed favorable to the idea, except we're also at a conceptual phase, but it did seem favorable. The concept here is to talk with you all, and if you're supportive, that we would go talk with Sewer Advisory Board, bring back their comments to you all, so that we could talk with them in August, come back to you all in August, and move forward with a notice of intent to file that with DENREC for funding to get on the project priority list. Now, that project priority list in itself and getting its funding is going to have a timeline that could be, January to March. So this isn't something that's going to happen overnight to actually get there, but at a certain point, I may need to come back to you all and confirm this is what we're doing. We're pursuing these funds. So that's basically what I'm asking your permission for tonight is are you okay with that concept of us pursuing those funds?
Mr. President, you had a comment?
Yes, thank you. How many other public-private projects do we have like this?
So there've been multiple public works agreements. In terms of, every project has a slightly different arrangement. So when we did Dover East, it was 3 mobile home parks and some commercial properties.
Right.
Hilltop was a mobile home park and commercial properties. Hartley, as a district, was 2 mobile home parks and the town of Hartley and properties along the way.
And those have all been successful?
Yes, and this one is unique in that it is strictly for these 38 properties within the park that were not previously connected.
Okay. So one of the purposes of this funding would be to keep the rates down for those additional lots.
And have the rates be the same for both areas of the park. Now, in terms of the rent rate, you would have to direct that question to the representative of Whispering Pines.
Now, how do they do that there? Does this come out of their rent, or do the folks that live there, do they pay that separately?
We bill the mobile home park owners.
Okay.
We bill the landowner.
Okay.
So
I
if
would
you would
assume
like
it
to
comes out of
ask,
their rent.
if you would like Mr. Gilganes to come to the mic, he could answer that question.
Sure.
Or you can come up here too if you want, if you don't want to come to the podium. Either way.
No, you might as well come down here. Hi there. So did you hear the question?
Yes. So, it is, thank you. It is more like, the baby has come to the birth and it's not going to make it out. It is a cost that would, currently, let me start from the beginning. Currently, we are operating under rent control. This cost would not be considered an item that is under rent control, and it would cause the rents to go up as a result of having to build this system. We currently cover the cost of the sewer in the rent now, and we have quite a few aging septics that are concerning. We've been mitigating them with pumping mostly, but we know that they're
And you've
not
been
going to
picking
go
up
on.
that cost?
Yes, and we know that it's not going to go on forever like that. So we either have to complete this project or figure out something else to do there. But that's why we're reaching out to the county to say we think it's still a viable use, and these are people's homes, and it is a low income area. So we need that help to complete this situation.
Gotcha.
Mr. Sweeney?
Thanks, sir. So, Ms. Gold, after this is done, none of the maintenance after the fact falls to the county, correct? It's on the landowner.
No, the billing for the service is to the landowner.
Right.
This will be a county-owned system. Currently, the front half of the park is not a contract user, and the county is to maintain that infrastructure.
Okay.
We're currently in the district,
Gotcha.
District 1.
All right,
And-
for the front half. So this is just,
The entire thing is in
Yeah.
the district, the entire property, that is, not thing. But it,
so I apologize if this is, I remember Whispering Pines having some sewer problems where it was backing up into some of the trailers, into some of the mobile homes. It's been years and years ago. Was that mitigated with the county's, what the county's already done?
Well, yes, the whole place was on septic, and there were large systems. So we've been systematically trying to, reduce those, get rid of them, and go to sewer.
And this will prevent
been a
this,
process.
any problems that have occurred in the past from occurring again.
Yeah, I don't remember that. I don't know.
I just remember getting calls. It was at the very beginning of my term here, so I've been back in the late 2000s.
Okay, yeah.
so I just want to go back and repeat something just for the record. So the project that was put in by the county, we put a force main through the property, and we had an easement. And some of the history is detailed on the second page. It's pertinent, but it's not really a lot of details that we felt that I really needed to rehash in the discussion. But that information is on the second page. But that loan that did the first part of the project, the mains were turned over to the county for our maintenance. from the lateral clean out to the home is still the park owner's responsibility.
Okay. Which is the same everywhere.
It's the same everywhere.
Okay.
Any other questions? Mr. Buxton, yeah.
How long will it take to get an answer? We're okay with this.
So you have to go through that notice of intent process. We're going to be talking with DENREC to see if they're willing to go outside of the cycle. Are they willing to proceed knowing that this needs to be finished? But likely, if we can't get an answer on the funding until March, if they won't let us apply until March, I would say it would probably be 3 months after that. It'd probably be June before we have the funding. But I'm assuming we can do better than that.
Guess what I want to know is, you think you'd have a yes or no answer to our request in less than a year?
Yes,
Yes, less than a year.
yes. Funding, yes.
You'd have the ability to tell the development, yes, we're good to go in less than a year, or no, we're not, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then if the answer is no, we're not, because they've articulated they're not in support of this for whatever reason, we go back and Whispering Pines, that they're on their own.
That we couldn't manage to make it happen.
They can't continue to exist this form or fashion without correcting the problem. The only way to do that now is they're allowed to. They're going to then pass those costs, rightfully so, on to the residents, folks that live in that community.
So part of the process of what we'd be working out with DENREC is whether they want another, if they would like to have an income survey done in this area. So there's quite a bit still to figure out. This is very much at a conceptual standpoint.
I'm not worried about whether or not, I just want to, so if they say, I'm just painting the picture, if they do say no, hopefully they won't, did, and communities in Whispering Pines in a tough spot. And we've talked about making sure that a quarterly rate doesn't go up. I had the conversation with you, $5, $6. You articulated you were concerned that it might be affordable. Well, I can assure you that $100 a month in that community is going to be a real problem. So that's why I'm hopeful and optimistic this will go through. Because I think it makes sense. A mile up the street as the crows fly is Paris Villa.
But we're,
Articulated tonight, we articulated tonight the vast majority of the folks who filled out the survey aren't owners. It's a private sector that owns it. So we're benefiting 100, Whispering Pines versus just one Whispering Pines. In some form or fashion, that's what we're doing. So, and I support it. I support Paris Villa, even though they're primarily tenants.
50%. I'd say it's 50-50.
Big number. So I support this. I would argue the reason I asked for the timing, not just this project, but other projects, potentially, could be a poster child for the ARPA money. And they are exactly that. They are low-income, affordable housing on septics that are going to be problematic to fix, real problematic. But that's, we're putting ourselves way out there in front. I just wanted to weigh in and say that I support this.
All right, so like I said, any other comments? Like I said, this doesn't require motion. She's just looking for the reassurance that we're okay with it. All right, so are there any objections? Okay, so you got your green light.
Okay, thank you very much.
Very good, thank you. You did a lot of work on this. I
Tremendous
really
amount.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
A lot of people, you bet, come back and see us. Any questions from anyone on the air or in the flesh?
If we have any guests on WebEx and you're on a phone, you can press *3 to raise your electronic hand, or if you're on a console or a computer, use the graphic hand and we'll let you into the meeting.
No participants from WebEx to comment at this time.
All right, no comments out there, so Mr. President, back to you.
Thank you. With that committee being adjourned, we'll move on to Planning Services Committee. Mr. Buxton, turn over to you, sir.
Thanks, sir. I believe Ms. Kiefer will be with us momentarily.
Oh, Sarah?
Good evening. Good evening, Commissioners. The first of the two items before you tonight should look familiar by now. We received an inquiry from the mayor of the town of Farmington asking for help with code enforcement. They've got just a couple of properties that are a problem for them. So as with the other towns, we've agreed to help. The property maintenance code allows them to make the request and for Levy Court to choose to grant it. And then we'll have authority to enforce our property maintenance code within the town. Happy to answer any questions.
What's, off the top of your head, are you familiar with how many municipalities we actually perform this service for?
Farmington, Viola, Little Creek.
Kenton.
Kenton, we have done for a long time. We don't enforce our code. They actually adopted some of their own ordinances. And Magnolia had reached out, but I've not heard back from them. I don't know if they're going to go in that direction or not.
Now, we've asked the question before, as far as workload, you don't foresee it becoming an impact? I would still support it. It just means we may have to have a conversation about adding to the
So far, we've had capacity. We've been able to manage it. The one thing to keep in mind is if a couple of properties in a town get to the point where they're calling us, these tend to be property owners who are not the best neighbors. And they're not responding to a kind word from the mayor. These can take longer because we've got folks who don't want to work with us. That's true throughout the county. They just tend to be the harder cases. But we've had the
getting ready
capacity.
to get it in Farmington just a little bit. Just a little.
Have you been through Viola?
Went through Iowa. Yeah, just the other day, getting some concrete, concrete dust. Anyway, so any other comments regarding this? We all support it. Show of hands. Super. Let's move on to the next one.
Okay. Next is round 25 of the Agricultural Lands Preservation Program. Of the 26 properties that the program sent over to us this year, 16 of them meet our criteria. And we've got $200,000 that was appropriated by the Levy Court to put toward these. We are recommending that the $200,000 be allocated toward those 16 properties, and that comes to an acreage of just under 1,083 acres. And if the commissioners are interested, Department of Ag confirmed for me today that through round 24 so far in Kent County, there are 523 existing easements, equaling 73,000 acres that are under protection.
Fantastic.
Is there not now, but a readily available map identifying those properties?
It's actually in our online map if you want to take a look at it, but I can get you a paper copy if you'd like.
Yeah, it might be cool to
Sure.
just see it.
Sarah, that's in perpetuity, right?
I'll send one to all of you.
Yeah, good, good. I'll put that in my office.
Is that in perpetuity forever?
You can buy yourself out of it after a certain amount of time. A property owner can buy their way out. I truly don't know if anyone has. It's very, very expensive.
And how do they buy their way out?
I believe they've got to go through the appraisal process again, and I think pay a premium on top of that. It's been a long time since I looked at it, but it's meant to dissuade
Yeah.
property owners from coming out of the
Yeah, I
program.
had a discussion with somebody the other day about it and said that, you don't buy your way out of this. It's very expensive and
Yeah.
never done.
They don't encourage it. They design it so you don't want to.
Good deal.
We'll have copies of the map for your next meeting. if
So,
that's okay.
show of hands in support.
Consent agenda?
Consent agenda's fine. Any public comments regarding the previous two items. Any public comments? Online, maybe?
Any guests on WebEx that wish to address the commissioners on either of these two items? Star 3 on your phone, or raise your hand, or you can do it via your computer.
There's no one on WebEx wishing to comment at this time.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Okay. Moving on to Administration Committee, Mr. Angel.
Thank you.
For you, sir.
Esri, Mr. Pettibone?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe Director Kim Crouch is on the WebEx line. Kim, if you are there, the floor is yours to address the commissioners on this item.
So, Kim, if you're on the line, you can press star 6, and that will unmute you.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good
Can you
evening.
hear me? Okay, thank you. Well, tonight in your packet, you have some information regarding the Esri software maintenance license renewal. This is a renewal that we do annually, and so it is due. And the Esri software is a georeference data. We use it to georeference our data onto the Earth longitude and latitude, and we have an online mapping system, which is where we show parcel information in relationship to roads and wetlands and boundaries and districts. And the staff at Kent County also uses this online mapping to make business decisions. So tonight we're asking for authorization to move forward with a maintenance renewal. In your packet you have two quotes. The quotes cover a period of July 30th of this year through July 29th of 2022. And the one quote is in the amount of $30,617.81, and it covers licenses and maintenance for planning, public works, assessment, as well as administration. The other quote in your packet is in the amount of $1,500, and it is for public safety dispatch. Both quotes are fully budgeted in the appropriate operating budget. I did ask Esri for a multi-year discount, hoping that we could get a reduced amount for 3 years, but unfortunately Esri does not provide that option for us. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Kim? No questions.
Pretty much is what it is.
Not on this.
Sorry?
Kim, are you feeling better?
Yes, thank you. I'm feeling much better.
I'll bet you are.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll move this to the consent agenda.
Okay.
7 up. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you. Thank you.
What you got?
Okay. Well, I was asked to do a report on the rescue funds that we received, and I will say it was interesting in Washington, D.C. I learned a couple things. First, that normally the government, when they set their budget, set it up top and it goes to the states and trickles down. Once NACO, our National Association of Counties, got a hold of that, they said during these time frames, the counties, we have 3,069 counties in the United States, we could use that money better and get things appropriately done, infrastructure, broadband, essential workers. There's a list of litany of things that we can do. So NACO went to work working with Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell, and they got it done. So the American Rescue Plan is basically started by NACO, one of our governing bodies that we belong to. Now, having said that, Sorry? Oh, okay.
Nothing, it wasn't on you.
The nice thing about this is the Treasury Department also has built in, for revenue losses, a 4.1 per year built-in. So if we had no income at all lost, we still would be able to do 4.1 and receive funding for it to help us out. That's built in as an initiative for every county.
So if the county lost no money, they still get money.
They'll still get 4.1%. It's built into the Treasury that the counties will make money. It's built in that way.
Makes sense.
So, during the breakout sessions, there was 3 of them in Washington when I was there. I tried to get to them. By the time I got to them, because of all the committees I'm on, I was always in the back. They were in the open. The acoustics was not great to hear, so it was hard hearing what people were talking about. But I brought up some of the issues. We had little sidebars in the back that we were talking about. And of the 3 I attended, most of the smaller counties were waiting to see, take a wait-and-see look on what other counties were doing. They didn't want to reinvent the wheel. They wanted to see what other counties were doing. A lot of your major cities actually have moved forth and set budgets up for certain items. I pulled it up on today on my iPhone. If you'd like to know, I can give you some of the cities, what they put in there. The smaller counties also were looking at when we do something like we're having a discussion here about essential employees and our budget. There were some concerns about us not doing something for nonprofits and for our employees, essential employees. So, having heard that they had the same consideration that we were looking at, I listed it down. I brought that up as one of the things we talked about too. But out of this conversation, we were talking about helping the homeless. Infrastructure was a major position for our counties. Since we don't do roads, hospitals, police, schools, other counties do, but that was their issues. I told them, well, we have water. We don't have water, we have sewer. And we have a lot of businesses and nonprofits in our area. And I thought that would be a way of looking at trying to get something to help them out. They brought up about doing a consultant, take it off of the county's shoulders since it can't be funded through the ARP funds. And that way, if we ran it through Mike would have the ability to keep in contact with whoever the consultant was to run this, so that we're not burdening him for all the extras that this is going to bring on, because that's what everybody's worried about. This is not no small job. This has got something that's got to be done, and it's got to be done within 2024, December 31st. So we're going to have to bring somebody in. I think it's the best way is what I heard them saying. I think we need to do too, look at it too. So, and I know Mike mentioned about using Dana, which I did bring it up at our meeting. Of course, Dana's Delaware, but I'm sure they have the same type of facility for working with nonprofit agencies in their state, of maybe having run it through theirs. So I brought that up as a way of looking at them to look at it. I also said that if we do any, not shortcuts, but if there's anything that has to be run through a committee that, because of transparency and accountability, I did bring up, which I'm going to say to you all, and they kind of like the idea too, that they sign a statement that what the monies they are receiving is, not to the best of their knowledge, is what they lost, so that they can receive funding. And that statement would be basically a perjury or fraud if you took something that was not truthful. And nobody really thought about that in the meetings, and that kind of like went around real quick, that nobody had thought about that. And so I hadn't had a chance to talk to Craig about it because I wanted to talk to you all too about it. So, but I know the Treasury document that Matt Chase put out for NACO, it's Treasury document 2021-0008. It's on the interim final rule because the NACO or the Treasury Department is getting close to making that final rule, and the interim is already in place, what I'm being told, of what I just read. So, this is a major undertaking from what I saw and what I'm hearing. Not just for just us, but even some of the cities that are a lot larger than us. In all the counties that I have some documentation of, nobody is around our time frame. There's either 55,000 or in the 300,000, 250,000 range. We're around 180,000 in our population. So there's a vast array of differentialities that people are looking at, and they're actually coding them totally different, each one of them. So, having said that, the coding, Treasury rules and guidance, this came out in July, actually June, but it was handed out in July for me. And we have deadlines we have to meet, and of course, we don't have to meet the first one, I believe, Mike, in August, because we do quarterly, because if we don't, is that correct?
We still have to file in August
Yeah, we have
as
to
well.
file, but I mean, it's a different filing for us.
We'll be doing a report in August and then in
Okay.
October.
Like I said, there's a lot to go through reading this thing, so,
And you're not gonna read it all, are you?
I'm gonna read some of it, yes, I am. The nice thing about this is, the reason I wanna do this is because they've already done a document on how to allocate funding. There's already a form we can use. It's already been pressed, it's easy to use, so I just wanted to make sure you guys are aware of it. So, it's on page 23, yep. 22, 23. And this ARPA revenue replacement calculator is what it's called. You just fill in the blanks and you calculate it, and it tells you how much you lost, and then on the back, the replacement loss revenue tells you all different departments that are qualified. So, like I said, we don't want to reinvent the wheel, and that's one of the things I was looking at trying to say too. So, when I was talking to the groups about nonprofits and businesses, I did bring up the idea about looking at 2 years of back taxes off their 1040s that they would have to produce and then substantiate so that they could show a loss in their funding. So you can't deny that. That's IRS and government. So and a lot of them like that idea too, because it's accountability and transparency. So, but I know we talked about broadband. Mike just informed us that the state's getting an extra $100 million for broadband. And I still think we need to put money towards it, because I don't think it's going to be enough still. And I know that the state's got $900 million coming to them, and they're going to use some of it for broadband too, I hope. But we're good at partnering, is what I'm trying to say. I don't think we need to say we're not going to use any funds towards it. I think we need to look at that. So,
Mr. Angel, you know, all this data is really great, but my biggest concern is, what is Newcastle and Sussex doing so far? I mean, do we have any documentation on whether or not they have done anything, or they have any plans in place on what they've done or plan to do?
well, I had talked to David from Newcastle, and he was supposed to send me something, and I never got it. So I can't answer that, what they're doing. So I'm sure that Matt and Todd will contact Mike, since there's only 3 of us, counties in the state, to see how we're doing and what we're doing, or how we should proceed.
Well, yeah, I would assume that there would be some kind of coordination of effort here, so that there was some kind of consistency. But I realize that Newcastle's issues aren't maybe going to be ours, and ours is not necessarily going to be Sussex. But, you know, I think it's great what the rest of the country's doing, but, you know, I'm worried about Delaware and what we're going to do here.
Or Sussex and Newcastle have agreed to go with Operation Gray Fox with Kathy, right?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
No.
But I can address the question if you would like.
Yes.
Please.
I've talked with my counterparts in Newcastle and in Sussex, and I can tell you that Newcastle County, I spoke with Matt Meyer, and they have I guess, a little bit of a leg up because they received CARES Act funding the prior year, and when they received that money, they had set up some apparatus to manage that program, and committees. And so they kind of rolled from that, like they had an accountability and, I think they called it a compliance committee that they set up. And from that, with this new funding, they've set up a couple of additional committees. There's one that's intergovernmental committee that is primarily mayors and elected officials from all the towns in Newcastle County, plus the State Chamber of Commerce and people like that. And then there's a business committee that, again, there's county representation and business representation, and the Newcastle County Chambers on that. And then there's a community development committee. And, so they have like 5 different committees that they've established, and they're all in the process of developing a kind of prioritization under their areas. And Matt told me that they'll be reporting back, and there'll be a formulation of like a complete plan after that happens. He did tell me that they've identified 5 specific targets right now that they want to be looking at in Newcastle County. Affordable housing, sewer infrastructure, early childhood development, education, parks and bike path development, and public safety. So those are, at least from the executive's office, the goals or primary targets within the overall. But they've asked the committees that they've established to think, broadly about, here's this kind of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Given your area of interest, how would we best use this money? And then they'll see how it fits the program once they get those ideas back. And speaking with Sussex, they're more like in our mode right now. When I speak with Todd, they have not really advanced any program per se at this point. They're kind of in a bit of a holding pattern. They want to wait to see the final rule come out before they really begin to start speaking publicly. They've been getting a lot of the inquiries like we have been getting from various entities in the community. Interestingly, Todd did say that there's some interest in Sussex about looking for partners in the medical arena that have been impacted by the pandemic. And, things like hospitals, agencies that have been doing testing and things like that, and see if there's partners in there that they could help with. Because that is a big portion of the emphasis in CARES Act, as well as the community health response. And so he did specifically mention that. Speaking with the city of Dover, they're still in a process of negotiating or talking with the U.S. Treasury over the amount. That they're held to a different standard than most of the other communities. They weren't given the money based on population. It was because they're an entitlement community. They use a different formula, and it's somewhat less than what their counterparts received. So they're looking at that, but the town manager said that at least initially they're looking at some community-based projects like parks and also sewer and water infrastructure. They still have some issues with old portions of their water system that they feel that they can replace. But it's very early at this point, so no specific plans. So that's basically what I can report from our immediate counterparts here.
So I would imagine it would be correct to assume that we can't spend any of it till we get the final ruling from Treasury, correct?
Well, it would be.
Or promise anything.
It would be wise. Like the thing we talked about this evening regarding the sewer, I think that's pretty solid. But there are a number of inquiries into the U.S. Treasury. It was a 60-day period for comments and questions that ended on Friday. And they're in the process now of going through all that, and there may be some adjustments made. Some of the things that NACO was pushing were broadening some of the use categories with respect to infrastructure. Right now it's sewer, water, broadband. and limiting the sewer and water part to things that qualify for federal funding otherwise. One of the pushes from NACO is to broaden that to smaller projects in the sewer and water world that could be, that's still needed, particularly in communities that are small and have limited resources, that might not qualify for federal money, but are still important projects. And some of the other things like that, that NACO's